Tootsies.
Own time.
On your own time. On your own time. You like my voice?
It's awful.
From on a scale of 1 to 10, from all the great singers you've heard in your life, how decent is my voice? Be real with me now, too.
It's like
Be real with me.
Well, that's rough because on the scale of all the singers I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. Put me up with the classics, dude. You sang with Stevie Wonder. I understand.
But a 1 is like the worst that's ever existed.
Yeah, the ones like Tristan.
Shit, man. I mean, you're talking like I'd say you're halfway there. I'd say you're a 5.
Damn. Wow.
When you actually try to sing, you sing well.
I think when I actually try to sing, I sing poorly. I think when I'm not trying to sing very well, it's like when I'm just like in a little flow state and singing nicely. If I'm trying, like back in the day when we used to drink heavily, some Carlo Rossi and like sing hard, dude, I have like old videotapes, or like not even videotapes, like little cell phone videos of us singing. I have this one of me singing to your ex-girlfriend when we were on the couch in our green room at the old house in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just singing Leanne Womack, I Hope You Dance, so hard. It's just so embarrassing. No, of course not, dude. Yikes.
Was she pretending to be into it?
Probably.
Why do you still have this video? And
I don't still have it. I just remember seeing it. Like I've come across many videos in my day of just embarrassing singing or like freestyling. Like our friend Brent sent us one last night. It was just like him and me like at a party just freestyling so hard as if anybody cared, and it was just awful.
It was just you two.
Yeah, just going so hard.
Anytime I'm like really giving it a go with the drinks. How many drinks do you have right now, bro? I see you just sucking down 3 different.
I got a water. I got a V8 Splash. I got a yerba mate.
Are you Hunter S. Thompson?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to get my fluids in, dude.
Any time I'm really giving it a go with alcohol and somebody pulls out their phone, I'm done with that person.
You have some great. I've been sent when I moved to New York and you were still like just happening to be around in Seattle when you weren't on tour. People would always just like send me videos of you, like you saying hello, like Alan, I'm sending a video to Julian, and like you'd be hammered drunk and you'd be like, hello, papito, how are you doing? It's just like the best, man.
I really gave it a go there for a few years.
Yeah, you gave it a great go, man. Remember when you were just coming up and you like loved? I know this has changed significantly since a decade of being where you're at. But I'm sure I do the exact same thing, which is you like got pretty recognizable around Seattle, especially out in like Capitol Hill area. We would go and we'd be like, dude, and I think I liked, and our friends would like to go out too and just be like, dude, you want to go get recognized? Just go hit the streets and just like walk around and just like get excited about people who would recognize you.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah,
how does that feel now?
Blast you early 20s, and for the better part of 23 years, nobody gives a shit about who you are or why you are that.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, people are like, "Yo, dude, Push Pull Tear, that's my shit."
Push Pull Tear, dude, that's my shit.
It's relatively alarming. Like it's a hard thing to adjust to. People knowing something about you before you've introduced yourself. It's like really interesting, and I'm not at all famous compared to human beings. Like, can you imagine being Justin Bieber, bro? Can you imagine being able not to go outside, like not being able to leave a place without being bombarded by humans who just want a piece of you?
Yeah, I imagine I would be like super saucy for a month, and then I would just be like, oh, this fucking sucks. This is like just awful.
Like you wouldn't need to necessarily get overwhelmed, but it would just completely change your ability to exist. There's something nice about walking into a room and getting to choose your own
Adventure.
adventure, kind of like, yeah, when people don't know of you and you're able just to introduce yourself and kind of be in that moment whoever it is you feel you want to be, right? Whether you want to be charismatic, whether you want to be relaxed, whether, whereas if you walk into a room, like if you're Bruce Willis and like people just naturally think you kick holes in aliens' chests,
Yeah.
it's hard not to portray that specific character that you think you should be.
Yeah. Would you prefer to walk into the green room of a show you had just done with all the people, like with the most people that there ever are back there? Would you rather have enter a room like that, obviously knowing that they're there to see you, or like a party that you like actually don't know anybody at this point in your life?
Yeah, I don't probably a party. Like
Really?
I enjoy just like getting to know people without them having some sort of notion about who I am or what I do. Whenever I go to shows, I'm kind of naturally thinking that, or also if I go out like past 11 at night, I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to run into somebody that knows me or knows something of me.
Yeah.
And it kind of like, it'd be like you're walking out in the desert feeling like there's a cougar that's checking you out and following you, but you don't know where it is or where it's coming from or who
Yeah.
that person's going to be. I love connecting with people without them having any preconceived notion of who I am, because that's a pure experience. It's a pure moment. And on top of that too, it's hilarious. Like I prefer to connect with people without having anything to know about, without knowing anything about them. There's
Right.
plenty of times where I've met people that I'm supposed to know who they are and I don't. I'll be introduced to somebody. Oh, dude, this is so and so from so and they do such and such. And I walk into that scenario being like, this totally pulls me out of my element. Like I am no longer like curious about this person. I feel like I have to come in and try to gain something from this interaction versus
Right.
just having a pure experience with another human being. Hey man, where are you from?
Yeah.
What are you into? What makes you tick? I think you can get trapped in the perspective in entertainment of walking into a scenario, meeting somebody who's in the business or does something in the business, and your natural perception in that scenario is to try and gain something from that experience or from that interaction. Like, oh, this guy works in TV. Like, oh, I talk, if I'm funny enough, maybe I'll get and that actually just really pulls you out of that presence and that flow state, which is your best set of parameters to begin with. So, dude, just don't tell me what the party is. Don't tell
Yeah.
me what I'm going to. Don't tell me who's
Huh.
going to be there. Don't tell
Interesting.
me what to wear. Just like give me the address. I'll show up without any knowledge of the scenario, and it'll probably turn out much better than, hey, so this is Harvey McIntosh and he works for, Uber, and Uber's
Yeah.
having, every Christmas they have a big party. If you really woo these people, then you might get that private event, that private cash. It's like, fuck, there's no way I'm gonna get that private cash, bro. I'm gonna walk in there and be like, oh.
Ain't no way I'm gonna get that private cash, bro. When you I don't assume, I know that that's an evolution of yourself, because I'm sure that has you've transitioned into that person who would prefer to walk into a party where you don't know anybody rather than walking into a green room,
I've kind of
right?
always
Or really?
I've kind of always been that way. I used to really like going to like our friends' parties. Hey buddy,
You got a
you gonna
little
come say hi
Tintin
to
coming?
Uncle Dean?
Hey,
You
come
gonna come
on
say
in
hi
here,
to Uncle
little Tint.
Dean? Hey look, Uncle Dean.
Come on now, little Tint.
He's smiling. Come say hi to Uncle Dean.
Hi.
You say hi into the
Hi,
microphone.
Rudy. Hi. Hi.
Say hi, Uncle Dean. You can say it louder, buddy. Say hi, Uncle Dean.
Hi, little Din Din.
Say how you been, Uncle Dean? We miss you.
Can you say that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yesterday we were at the park. He said, "This is the best day ever."
Really? This is the best day ever. Can you say that, Tint?
Say, "This is the best day ever." Are you being shy? We don't got room for shy boys. You come back here when you're not being
Come
shy.
on now, shy boy. When you introduce yourself to a group of people who don't know who you are,
Yeah.
do you typically kind of stray away from like the details of your music career? Or obviously you are a musician, so like that's inherently what you're gonna just say. But do you like sometimes like to tell people things that aren't who like being a musician and stuff like that, or like when you introduce
Mm,
yourself and they don't know anything?
just depends on where the conversation goes. I want to attempt to let the conversation flow naturally. I don't want to put too much of my own inertia into
Inertia.
a dialogue. Yeah, I get no joy out of talking about my accomplishments
Listing your resume.
without
Yeah.
unless I one because I don't have a ton of them, but also you know uh it's just there's no conversation. It's if I have moments I can bring in, oh, I had this experience one time doing X,
Right.
and it
Right.
connects to what we're attempting to try and talk
Yeah.
about. I want to have fun, interesting conversations. I like people who can play catch, and can volley in
Yeah.
conversation. Like when you toss something, they can toss it right back. And there's
Right.
there's not a ton of people who are able to do that. Honestly, it's funny with humor. Like humor's my favorite asset and like
Right.
my favorite club in my golf bag.
Right.
And there's only so many people who are really fluent in it and like really able to catch it and throw it back.
Yeah.
And
Totally, man.
it's funny how few people there are that can actually do that. That like have the capability of taking something with a sense of humor and then throwing, hitting that badminton birdie over the
Yeah.
net back to you. That's my favorite interactions.
Yeah. Sometimes it
Um,
just takes a little bit more time to be with somebody because I've been surprised by people that I've met before and had a first impression of, and then come back and been like, oh my God, you're so much, you're so much more charismatic and fun
mm,
and silly than you were the first time I met you. So I don't try to judge that stuff on the first time I meet somebody, because it's easy to do that and be like, oh, I don't want to hang out with that person again.
right.
But then sometimes they're great. Like the people you said, you just used the analogy of your golf bag, and we went golfing recently with those two like golf pros, and immediately we were like, dude, these guys are gonna be fucking
Oh, these
chumps,
guys are gonna
dude.
hate us. Yeah,
They're gonna hate us, and they were awesome.
they're the best
They were volleying the whole day with us, man. Like
all
almost
day.
almost beating us up with it, dude. It was awesome.
Like one of the greatest languages or dialects that men have is talking shit.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite thing to do is just like get around, do some grab assing and talk some shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, just to fill everybody in who's listening, I had the opportunity to play a gig in New Jersey what was it, last weekend,
Yeah.
uh, for a benefit. This PGA pro golfer named Morgan Hoffman. He was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, I think 2 years ago. And so he started a foundation to raise money to cultivate this healing center. And he does this incredible golf open in New Jersey, in Paramus, New Jersey.
Paramus.
Paramus or
Whatever.
Paramus?
I don't know,
Yeah.
honestly.
And he invited your Uncle Al to come and play some tunes. Brought me out of retirement, come play some tunage, and then let me golf. It was like all these really great golfers there. Doc Rivers was there.
Dude.
Uh, Eddie Hernandez, that's who we golf with. He has the longest drive, the world record for the longest drive, 480 yards.
God damn, dude. Talk about it, man.
Dude, I
That was
couldn't
crazy.
I couldn't roller skate that long without like needing a water
No.
break.
Yeah. It's insane.
And Julian came along. He came up from New York, and Ryan Beardrose was there, my tour manager. And we went out golfing, and they put us with Eddie Hernandez, the like a legitimate pro golfer, and then Alindo Mari, who's used to kick for, I don't know how many seasons he played in the NFL, but incredible kicker, athlete. And God, we rolled up to the pin just like,
It was like 6 o'clock in the
yeah,
morning.
it's like
Like,
6 o'clock in the morning. We were rough. We haven't showered. I got a polo on, the first time I've ever worn a polo in my life. And the way that these guys looked at us, just like, how did we get paired up with these knuckleheads?
yeah,
And then sure enough, dude, like 3 holes into it, we were hooting and hollering and
ripping, dude.
laughing our butts off.
Yeah,
And, and, and honestly, bro, if I would have came into that scenario and somebody would have filled me in on who those people were,
yeah,
it
yeah.
would have
Right,
been a different experience.
right.
If I would have came in, they were like, "Hey, here's the deal. Okay, so in 2008, and then in 2009, they were awarded." If I would have came in with just like, "Oh, well, this is a really important person. What
Yeah,
am I doing here?" I'm constantly
right,
like, "What am I doing here?"
right, right.
It would have, I think, completely changed the outcome of that experience. And the outcome of the experience was we had a great time golfing 18 holes with a bunch of guys we never would have hung out with before in our life.
Yeah,
And at the end of it, we're all hanging out, exchanging info. Hey, man, when you come down to Florida, let's hang out. If either of us would have known going into that experience, like, hey, man, you know who this is, right?
yeah,
It would just be weird. We've had guests on the podcast before, and the same thing. I'm like, I don't want to do too much research about this person.
yeah.
I want to know, like, the 40,000 foot view of who this person, what industry they're in, maybe what interests they kind of have. But like, I don't want to know everything. That takes away from the joy of actually getting to know someone, the the journey of making a friend. That's the best
Totally.
part about meeting new people, is like learning all about them. And if
Yeah,
you go into the situation feeling like you know something about that person, I've had it work to my advantage in times, but I think if I were to go between one or the other, my favorite is just to meet somebody randomly, find out that like, oh my God, like you're the man, you're the lady, you
totally.
are they. I
Yeah,
think that's the
that's it.
correct
You did
pronoun.
it. You hit it. Hit it on the head there,
Hit
boy.
all of them, dude.
Got
Touched all
him.
them bases, baby.
There's
Home
like
run.
12 more, dude. You're
Is
missing
there?
one.
Ah, schneidi.
Who knows? Yeah, I agree, man. I think like the experiencing life through that kind of discovery of like not really knowing what you're getting yourself into. I certainly had it just coming out there. I was like, oh, cool, we're going to this like country club, hoity-toity. You came out wearing your polo shirt. I was like, you look like such an asshole. This is gonna be ridiculous. We pull up on the dudes and we're just like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, they're pros. Like, we're at this, you know, apparently beautiful golf course. Like, I just assume that all golf courses are kind of just like beautiful and whatever. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. I have no reference for any of this stuff. And then they start telling us who they are, and then like 2 holes in, we're like we're watching golf happen in like in its finest way. Like
Mm,
it's like we're getting to experience it through this guy Eddie, who's like every time he hit a golf ball,
it's
it was
absurd.
like the most satisfying thing that could ever happen. I was just like, just the sound. You can like close your eyes and just be like, oh my God, dude,
Yeah, it
that
was
is
like,
so nice to hear. And then
it,
watching it, like,
oh
oh,
yeah, it was like, I'm trying to equate it to like what else it would be. It would be like a chef who, like a Michelin star chef slicing vegetables.
or do this is like putting like fondue like over like a creme brulee of sorts that just like washing down and watching it drizzle and it's just so good, dude. It was
Yeah.
so satisfying, and the guys were just so cool, and then we discovered that he's like the longest driver in the world, and it's like, whoa, well, I guess that makes sense. That tracks because you just hit a hole in one on a par five. And then it's just like I'm asking him, like, we're cruising around on our golf carts, and I'm like, is this a nice golf course? He's just like, oh yeah, dude, this is like one of the nicest. And I'm like, oh my God, like, how privileged am I? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not even playing. I don't even know why I'm here.
I
Like, this is crazy.
It's kind of the coolest part about what we get the thrill of doing is that we find ourselves in situations where that happen. I mean, that happens pre-pandemic, that happened a lot more frequently
Yeah.
than I could, take credit for, where I would find myself in a situation where I'm just like, God, this is way cooler than I've ever been.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
like, I don't belong here.
Oh
This
yeah.
is sick, dude. Bro,
Yeah.
they Casamigos sponsored the party, bro.
Yeah.
They were just
Yeah.
handing it out like it
Oh
was
yeah.
fucking
They had a couple
Coca-Cola
cuties.
during the Vietnam War.
Yeah. They had a couple cuties walking around just like passing out tequila sunrises. Your boy Alan took like 19 of them
I
because I
got
made him.
I got strong-armed. I
Shit
got
faced by
strong-armed.
whole
Two
six.
two beautiful young women in sundresses just walking around with
Hi.
fruity tequila. Well, what
That's
are you
great.
gonna do? What are you gonna
Yeah.
do?
It was cool, man. It was a cool experience. And honestly, for me, man, like more than anything, you're saying that like there's a lot of opportunities pre-pandemic for you to get to experience that kind of thing. And like you know what you're getting yourself into. The cool thing for me being your best friend is that like I don't have any real reason to be at these things outside of just being associated with you. So it's just like exceptionally cool and interesting because I actually don't have to do anything and I just get to like really develop like because those guys are actually just as cool towards me as they are towards you. And it's just like there's no like meritocracy here. We're not like you were meant to be this celebrity golfer
Well, no,
guest there.
I get your point. Like you're just getting to quote unquote like ride the coattails or something. Somebody might put it that way, but that's not the case. Like it is a meritocracy. If you were lame
Yeah.
and you were in that scenario and you couldn't hang and you couldn't toss shit and catch it and throw it
Right.
back, then very quickly you would find that that situation was would have turned out completely differently. And a lot of people don't have that ability. A lot of people don't have the ability. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's some people just a little bit more introverted. There's some people who didn't grow up in that way. I think that growing up the way I did, I played sports and was around men a lot, and in those type of situations, that I'm very comfortable in that scenario. I'm very comfortable, like just grab assing and talking shit. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who have trauma from that, because the people who growing up when they were getting shit tossed at them, they didn't understand that if you just caught it and chucked it back, you'd be fine. They just
Right.
caught it. They would just
Right.
catch it and be
Right.
like, I don't know what to do with this. I think I'm going to take it home to my bedroom and write a song.
Yeah.
Like I think specifically with certain groups, certain type of men, specifically men. Women can do it as well, but I think it's more frequently expressed in groups of men. Not everybody's comfortable in that scenario. And so it is relatively a meritocracy. You involved in that group of people, it could have been completely different. You could have left that whole day being like, those guys were kind of rude, man. It's like,
Yeah.
no, bro, they're just
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how you
Right.
compliment men in certain,
Right.
oh
Right.
fucking look at this pussy, and whatever. It's
Yeah.
like
Your social cues are off. You're not going to pick that up.
Exactly. If you've not experienced that and you haven't jumped into the fire and tried to dance, you're gonna get burnt a little bit, and you're only gonna get burnt because you allow yourself to get burnt, right? Like in
Yeah.
reality, it's just a joke. Everybody's just dicking around.
Right. Right. But that's learned behavior. Yeah.
It is for sure learned behavior, and luckily, you and I have experienced enough social interaction that we can hang in those scenarios. I can also
Mhm.
we can also both hang in really like introspective personal arenas as well.
Yeah.
And I think, I
Pretty much we're fucking awesome, dude.
well, no, I mean, we're terrible people. Like we
Yeah,
are
we are.
beyond terrible people, but we've luckily been able to like we've been forced into enough social interactions that we can kind of like, we speak a lot of dialect in human interaction. And that's a privilege. It's like
Yeah.
I think it ultimately is probably the best asset somebody can have. When you
Totally,
can
man.
when you can walk into a room and become friends with anybody in that room, you can make anybody in that room feel comfortable with you and want to hang out with you again. Like that's better than, I mean, I wish I knew numbers better. I wish I knew how to like rig the stock market. Like I feel like that would work out to
Yeah.
my benefit,
Yeah.
but being able
Nah,
to
man.
hang out with anybody and and interact with anybody and find the best parts of anybody
Totally,
is
man.
that's got to be top 5. It's got to
Yeah,
be
I
like
think
in the
so,
top
man.
5 of like human abilities.
Yeah, I think, our friend Tyler said it the best, man, when he came over, Tyler Davis, when he came and helped us with the Valentine's banquet. And he was just, we were like, man, we're really sorry we can't like, pay you what you're like used to getting paid. Like, this we're so grateful to have you. And like you've been such a humongous asset for us. This is like we want to do something really nice for you. And we couldn't sing his praises enough. And he was just like, guys, like your friendship and the conversations and like the experience that I've had being able to just like shoot the shit with you is is the entire currency in and of itself that I needed from you guys to like make this completely worthwhile. And that was what it was. It's like it is a currency,
Yeah.
in and of itself. Like to be able to crunch numbers and to be good at the stock markets is great if you're good at it, and if and even better if you enjoy it. But for couple artsy fartsy dudes like ourselves, our currency really is our personality and like the skill set that we have behind what we're able to bring to a relationship. And that's awesome, man. Like I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I didn't go to college, you didn't go to college, and for a
Mm-mm.
long time I would make it a point to really describe that to people and make sure they knew I didn't go to college, and like
Yeah.
almost in an attempt to rip college.
Right. Right.
Like, oh, you don't need it, you don't,
Yeah.
And then I hung out with a bunch of people who had gone to college and had uh, through that experience made some of the greatest friendships ever. And to me, what you learn the most from those scenarios is not your test scores. It's not like how well you can remember facts about the Boston Tea Party. It's coexisting within a amalgamation of social interaction and having friendships with a bunch of different types of people. And I think that's the most important. I would encourage anybody to jump, whether it's the military, whether it's college, whether it's junior college, place yourself in scenarios where you're forced to coexist with other people and work with that group of people to figure out a solution. It's almost like when you go to college, it's not necessarily the degree, because even though it is really great to have a degree at the end of college, nowadays with what it takes to get a job in the United States, like you're going to college for 4 years and then you got to go get a master's degree. And so it's not necessarily the certificate as much to me as it is the personal relationships that you gain through that experience,
Yeah.
the networking that happens, like the deeply rooted networking. And I think too, like the first 5-6 years that you're out of the house, like if you're raised in a home where you were lucky enough to live at home for 18 years and have like a good home system and network, those first like 5 or 6 years after you graduate and leave the house are some of the most important, pivotal days of your life. Like the relationships that I made in those years, I still have to this day. They're some of the most important people that I'll ever have in my life. I still keep in contact with those people. And I don't know if it's just leaving the nest and being on your own and learning the world for yourself without the protection of your family, what it is, but and I was able to even find that without having to go to college, really. Like I just found a group of friends that were my family. But it's interesting how those years are so, like, even thinking back to them, I think about the most like pivotal years of my life. And I will always go back to like 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, right when I kind of just like left my nest, my
Mm-hmm.
comfort zone, my parents, my like friends that I had grown up with since grade school. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make a correction here because I went to community college for like 9 years, dude, and like never finished. It
Van
did eventually,
Wilder.
but yeah, it was awful. But to make like just to play devil's advocate, like I don't know, I only went that long because I really didn't like it. And it was like, a city college that, like, not even a city college, a community college that,
Mm,
I wasn't feeling inspired by at all. And the only place that I did have, I think mostly probably because I had a community with my friends the same time that you
mm,
had yours going. And it was just like, wow, like the thing that you're speaking to was uh, where I where I found my happiness and my joy and my inspiration
mm,
from. And being in college was just like, cool, I can sit here and learn. Like, we know some friends who, like, the offbeat crew that shoot some of your music videos and your junk jams videos, and a lot of the things that you've done. Those guys all met at like film school, and that is like, what a beautiful place to meet and become friends, and to melt the minds, and to be a part of a community of like-minded people who you can come together with and like create with. But we had that in our friendship group. So getting to like go to community college to just go against your point was awful. It was like the worst.
well, it, community college can serve a purpose, like
Of course it
just
can,
like
yeah.
anything else. But I think specifically in those first 5 to 6 years that you set sail from whatever comfort zone you're in. Like for me, it was leaving Chuila, Spokane, like getting out and going away, like far enough away from my folks that if a legitimate emergency happened, I had to wait a little while before they could come rescue me.
Yeah.
But it was also like nobody, moving that far away, like nobody knew me. Right. So I could like cultivate this person the way that I wanted to express that person. I didn't have to be Alan Stone that had grown up in Chewelah, Washington and raised in the church and went to Jenkins High. Like I didn't have to be that specific human anymore. I could go to
Yeah.
another place, and it's almost like you reinvent yourself. Like you have the intention of reinventing yourself. And that kind of circles back to interactions now as an adult. Like you want to go into an interaction without having some sort of formation of who that person is. I hate gossip. I hate people talking about people
Hmm.
when they're not around. I think simply because it just informs me of that person without that person having the opportunity to inform me of who they are. Like I think in times it's good to know, like, hey, so just to let you know, you're hanging out with so and so. This
Yeah,
has
they're gonna,
happened before.
yeah,
Like it's
right.
good to know certain things about people, but I don't like to know too much. I don't like to be informed too much because I get such a joy out of meeting new folk. I get such a joy out of finding out new things about human beings that I didn't know before. And if I learn too much about somebody previously to learning about somebody, my natural inclination is just to be like, oh, I know this guy. I got this guy figured out, you know?
Yeah, yeah, totally, man. I mean, yeah, you're preaching to the choir, man. I even love assholes. I like to meet them and be fascinated by why they are an
Mm,
asshole. Like what's going on with you? Like what's making you tick? And breaking that stuff down with people, and being, and like really being kind and compassionate to people, and like talking and opening up with people, and seeing like what they're where they're coming from. Everybody's got something going on, man. It's interesting if you let them express it.
yeah. I haven't met, like, it's funny you say, like, I enjoy coming across and just hanging out with assholes.
Hmm.
It's been a while since I've genuinely met, and I guess the description of asshole to me is like, I know plenty of humans who've done terrible things,
Right.
and they've either been creepy or they've either been, they haven't been a gentleman. Plenty of ways that you can become an asshole or be an asshole. There's definitely people in the tradition of human life that are legitimately just like dicks.
Yeah.
And I haven't met one in a while. I
Well,
haven't just
I
like come
think
across one that was just like, Jesus, dude, you are a dick.
yeah, well, I think that because of the nature of what you do, you're coming across people typically in your life that are happy and like joyous. Even if they
Mm,
are inherently a dick, they're expressing their best selves around you, because, when you're meeting the majority of the people that you meet, you're meeting them like in these experiences where you potentially have like played for them and they're coming to see you and they're like, I love you, man. This is the greatest. Like, let me tell you about the one time I heard you play push pull tear back in 2011, dude. I was with my first girlfriend. We kissed. Oh my god, it's just like they're giving their best self to you, and that's not always the case. You're seeing people in different situations, like we talked about earlier in this podcast, where they don't know anything about you, but you're choosing to put yourself, especially now at your age and where you're at in your life, you're putting yourself in environments where they're not going to be that kind of person. For me, why I even made that comment is because, I've worked in the bar industry for a long time. So
Yeah.
I'm like around people who I wouldn't be choosing to be
Right.
around otherwise. And so I see a lot of that, and a lot of like, and I've worked at so many just like shitty, douchey sports bars because it was like the right place for me to work because I could do whatever I wanted and just make a bunch of money. And so those places fostered a type of person that are, just it's like an asshole isn't even the right word. It's just more like just insecure. But through insecurity, there can be like the behavior of kind of being a prick sometimes.
Right.
So I saw that a lot, and just to the point that I was making, it's interesting because you break it down. Why, like somebody comes in and is just puffing their chest and acting like a jerk, kind of talking to girls a certain way or whatever. And I typically associate it with dudes because girls don't have the same thing. I mean, girls can definitely be bitchy as fuck and be like, Jesus, dude, like, what's your problem? But I saw it more in the males that were coming in, and I would always just be fascinated, man. And it typically just
Yeah.
comes down to like this insecurity, that
It's always a
they're
funny.
expressing.
I always find it incredibly interesting when insecurities present themselves in that way.
Yeah,
Like, I don't understand how that's worked out in a positive manner for you before, because essentially your personality has just been reinforced. You
right.
tried something at some point in your life, or maybe you learned it from somebody you looked up to, or you had been around long enough, and that way you interacted with humans like worked out in your advantage, or else you would have just ditched it, and so
Totally.
I'm always shocked at people who like treat their employees like shit. Like, I've been around people before that I was blown away by, like, how has this gotten a positive execution of what you actually want done?
Yeah.
Like treating somebody the way you're treating them right now, because you had to have left that moment going, oh, the way that I just acted actually righted the course. I was upset at something, or maybe insecure, whatever. But, typically when somebody's acting like a quote unquote asshole, it's like something has happened. They want to change the course of that action. And so they're an asshole. But rarely do I ever see it working out like the way that they want it to work out.
Totally.
It's like
It's not effective.
it's not effective at all. And so to
Yeah.
me, it blows my mind when I see people continue like deep into their 60s, 50s,
Yeah.
60s. I see people who are just assholes. You go and watch a Star Wars movie, right? And you're like,
Mhm.
wow, how have they created this world? Like, how did they even think to create Jar Jar Binks and all these characters in Star Wars, right? That same perplexity hits me when I see somebody who has managed to live deep into their 50s, 60s. I'm thinking of a specific person right now that
So you know somebody.
I know somebody, yeah.
There you go.
And it was just like, how has reality been torn from your existence so deeply that you feel the way you're treating another human being right now is effective? I think it's maybe empathy, whatever the emotion is that we have as human beings, to where we can read somebody without them speaking it. I know that Julian's sad before Julian tells me. I know that Julian's
Because I'm
anxious.
fucking crying like a baby back bitch, dude. You don't have to know too much.
No. But there's like, you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I
Like when
get
you
it.
enter a room and you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know?
Hmm.
And there are human beings who don't have that sense. They don't have the ability to walk into a room and the entire room be thinking the same thing, but speaking something different, and them
Yeah.
not notice it. And that kind of shocks me
Do
whenever
you
I see it.
do you think it has something to do with proving oneself? Like for this person, I mean, we obviously can't speak to it because these are different people that we're thinking of. But like, could it be associated or tied to like this notion of trying to prove yourself? Like, and or not having proved themselves yet?
Yeah, I don't know. Like it continues to baffle me to this day when I see people treat others not well.
Yeah.
And it's either they don't understand it and they don't hear it. So like they're feeling a specific way. This happens to me with Taz all the time, where like I will say something. The emotion I'm feeling while saying it is not a negative emotion. I'm just
Right.
saying a word, I'm just saying a phrase. I'm just interacting in a certain guise. And then I'll like randomly see that interaction in a iPhone video or something. And I'll be like, geez, I sound like an asshole.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I wasn't attempting to be one at all. There was no amplification of any emotion
Right.
within that phrase. It just came out sounding really terrible. It's
Right.
either that's either happening, or it could be a combination of both. One would be they've just been so coddled. I'm thinking of a specific person,
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
but I think it can happen in a lot of people's lives. It's like they've been coddled enough, or they've experienced a world like that enough that when it collides with another person's world who's like gentle and kind and considerate, you're baffled. I think we
Yeah.
land on the kind, considerate, compassionate plane, but there's people's whose their entire orbit is just negativity. It's
Yeah.
nothing is good.
Totally.
Everything is like that's how they express themselves. They express themselves and they find their way in the world by just talking shit about everything. It makes sense. And I think that,
It doesn't
to-
make that much. It doesn't make
well,
sense because ultimately, like like their life uh, is a product of what they're speaking into existence. So like they're complaining and they're negative, and then as a result of that, their life is also it has become negative, and like they're troubled and things are happening poorly for them, and it's just like, well, why do you think that's happening, man? Change your fucking attitude, and you're gonna be better. But people don't know how to do that. Easier said than
yeah,
done.
they just been doing it for so long. Or, I mean, they were raised in a home where both of their parents were like just super negative. They were raised in a
Mhm.
super negative orbit, and
Yeah.
that can totally happen. And you don't even understand it. You don't even comprehend that that's how you're interacting with the world. Yeah, I think ultimately their life would probably benefit from not perceiving the world around them like that, not interacting with the world around them like that. But ultimately, like it's a shorter fall from being pissed off than it is looking at the world through
Yeah.
rose covered glasses. I mean,
Totally.
I've done that, but I still do that all the time. I intentionally don't get excited about things because I just never think that anything is good is gonna come from this, specifically with like my career. I
Yeah.
do my best not to get
See
excited about anything because always like it's never what I think it's
what you
gonna be,
expect it to be, right?
which is like it's expectation versus like joy, I guess, which I think can be two different things, like expecting something from a scenario or just being joyful that it's going to take place.
Yeah.
And I think learning to separate those is really a positive thing. But for people who live in a negative, I've said this word a million times, but negative orbit, it's not a far fall.
Yeah.
Like reality doesn't hurt as much because you're just kind of constantly like, you're a bottom feeder, you're a
Yeah.
halibut, and that makes sense. I've can completely understand why human beings would do that, but I think ultimately the high vibration man is much better.
That's what I like.
Better. Isn't it
I
odd how you can do a Jamaican accent and get away with it, but you can't. But there's
can you?
other.
I don't you
I
well,
think so. Like I see, it's like if you're Caucasian, I think Jamaican's like safe.
Jamaican me crazy.
Jamaican,
Jamaican. Probably
Jamaican.
not.
Maybe not.
Probably
We're
not.
done, dude.
We're done. I used the word tribe in our last podcast that you weren't even a part of, and I got some slack for it. Somebody was like, I'm cringing at the fact that two white people are using the word tribe as to reference their friendship, and I was just like, well, I'm Ecuadorian, so fuck yourself.
Yeah, just don't read comments. That's
Yeah, that's really the takeaway from it.
just like people just say stuff. Well, yeah, right. That's another thing about the way we tend to interact now. Like if you go out in public, 80% of the people that are literally out in a room full of people are on their phone interacting via text.
Mhm.
And you can't you can't convey dialect via text very well. Like you can't convey intention, you can't
Yeah.
convey emotion, you can't, and that's what literally all of us are discussing heavy topics doing.
I
Like that
know.
person could have been like this. Oh, I'm cringing at that. You two
Yeah.
white guys
Right.
saying,
Right.
or they could be
Yeah.
like, oh, I am
Ah.
cringing. You know, like you have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
And if you were in the same room as them, you might have some, you know, like a better understanding of what they're actually meaning.
It's tough. I don't even know like how I come across. I'm pretty like grammatically correct, I suppose, with my text messages.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know if they come across with humor unless I'm like articulating like exactly what I'm trying to say, like literally.
Mm-hmm.
So do we share funny texts? Like I don't even know how I come
Yeah,
across.
but we have our own dialogue. Excuse
Yeah.
me, dialect.
Yeah.
We like
Yeah.
what is funny to us would never be funny. And, you know, when we talk the way when we hang out, Taz is just like, how are you guys thinking you're funny? Nothing you say
Right.
is funny. It's just us making little sounds. You're just like,
Yeah.
you know, stupid like idiot boy stuff,
Yeah.
and
She
talking
laughs.
about
Oh,
poop
she
and
laughs.
wieners.
Come on,
And
man. She laughs. She laughs. She laughs.
I think she
She
laughs out
does.
of pity, or just like a lot of this happens a lot too. Like just laughing at other people laughing.
Right.
You know, like you get caught
Yeah.
up in that wave, and you can just
Yeah.
laugh at other. Like I don't know what you are finding funny, but you're finding it funny, and there's a vibration here, and I'm just gonna jump on the trampoline.
Yeah. Laughing's the best, man.
Oh, it's the best,
Belly
bro.
laughing. God, dude.
Literally
There's
nothing better. Nothing better.
That is the currency of life.
Yeah, laughing
Belly
is
laughter.
it's the best. Do you think that humans have always laughed? Because humor to me is one of the best human capabilities towards dealing with the darkness of life. Like if you
Right.
can make fun of something and laugh
Yeah.
about it, it no longer holds the power that it used to.
Right.
You can
Right.
laugh at yourself, not take yourself seriously. Your life is ultimately better. So do you think that we developed that? Like we obviously developed the written word, we developed language, we developed,
Yeah.
you
No, I
know?
think that's why it's so beautiful. I think it's, I mean, and who am I to say anything, but my theory, my 10-second theory is that is that it is just an inherent trait in human beings, from because like, you know, you look at a newborn child, well, maybe not a
So you think it's
newborn.
like sleeping almost?
Yeah, yeah, because like, you know, you don't need, like, you can be tickled and start laughing, but is that like, is that laughter because it's funny, or is that
Mm.
because I laugh as like in replacement of crying when I'm getting tickled, because I feel so much like, oh my god, like that, because
Mm.
my brothers used to do it to me, but like, but still laughter, like, and when you're a baby, right, like when Rudy was 6 months old, and as soon as he could like express an emotion, it was laughter. Not necessarily, well, maybe because we were trying to be funny, like doing little dances and trying to be like big bears around him or something like that, but
Yeah, but
I don't know.
he didn't develop that until like the first time I ever heard him laugh. So I'll remember it till the day I die. Taz sent me a video of him looking at Ricky. It's
Oh,
like for folks
I
who don't know
remember,
Ricky,
I remember.
I have an English bulldog named
Yeah,
Ricky, and
yeah,
she is the most peculiar looking creature that has ever walked the globe.
yeah.
Bulldogs, they're adorable. Me and my wife, we love flat nosed animals, but Ricky, she looks like if a
I'm gonna put a nice picture up on the
do it
on the on
if
the YouTube
if
video.
a seal, like what are those elephant seals?
Elephant seals.
That's what it's called? They got the big
I don't know.
long snout.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
That's what
let's go
Ricky
with
looks
that.
like.
Let's go with that.
Ricky
Yeah,
looks like an elephant seal. If you could throw up a picture of Ricky
I will.
and then an
Yeah,
elephant seal, you will know. And a pig. If a pig and an elephant seal had
yeah.
a baby,
And
it
then
would.
you just like put a warm frying pan on her face and like just pressed it up against her for like a good 14 minutes until it just stuck.
Yeah, what did I hear recently that was super funny? He's like, "You look like you did a 100-yard dash in a 20-yard room."
That's awesome. Ricky looks like that.
Ricky looks like she did a 100-yard dash in a 15-yard room.
12, dude. Yeah, she
And
is.
the first time I ever heard Rudy laugh was, but he must have been 8 months. Like I
Mhm.
would need to go back and check that video, but he was sitting upright. I remember he
Yeah.
was sitting upright. He was And he may not have been crawling, but at least his head was strong enough for him to keep his head up. He might have laughed before that, but I don't remember hearing like a proper belly laugh. Like he was proper, like looking at Ricky, just pointing at Ricky.
Yeah,
You
right,
know?
right. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like it's as
But he was
I
crying
f-
since day one. So I guess that's my
mm,
point. That's my devil's advocate of what you're saying is that
right,
sleep is day one,
right.
nursing is day one, eating is day one, crying is day one. Laughing is like, I don't think laughing is, at least for Rudy, it wasn't day one. It took some time.
Do you think there's one person in the history of time that went their whole entire lives without laughing once?
Oh my
My
God.
God.
I mean, fuck, maybe. Yeah.
Really?
Well,
That just goes to that goes to your 10-second theory then.
no, I guess my perspective is that I think potentially laughter has been developed through human
Uh-huh.
conditioning.
Yeah,
Like,
so like cavemen were just like sitting there
I
like
don't think
just
cavemen were laughing. Yeah, I don't think like early human was laughing.
dude, I would hate to be that.
I think that laughing, and I have no knowledge of the reality of this. I'm just literally guessing. But it makes sense to me that humans would have developed laughing like they developed reading or language, right?
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
couldn't communicate at some point in human history
I feel
other
like a
than
caveman was just like socking his friend in the face and it was just like
I don't know, man.
and then the other guy like farted, dude. A fart has to always be funny. A fart has been funny since
Yeah.
prehistoric times.
But I guess, like chimps seem to laugh, don't they? Chimps seem to have like a little giggle.
They must.
I'm trying to think. I went to the zoo recently.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen it. I think I've seen them be like, ha, 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 ha.
Like they have like
Yeah,
it seems
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
seems to be some sort of guttural reaction to things that are silly. So maybe laughing is an innate human characteristic, but it's just developed later, like walking, or
Yeah.
like picking things up, right? We have a natural tendency towards laughing or towards. I have friends who are terrified of spiders, and I'm like, "What happened?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Nothing." What? Why are you
Right.
afraid of spiders then?
They watched Arachnophobia, dude.
It wasn't that. They're just like, I just don't like them. I have an innate fear of. Same with rats. Like I've never
Yeah.
had a bad experience with a rat, but if a rat came in this room right now, I would jump on
Yeah.
this
Shit your
desk.
pants.
I would
Yeah.
shit my pants. I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Ah!"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that has to do with some sort of like cell memory of sorts. Like our ancestors must have passed that down.
So then what was the first thing that somebody laughed at? What was the first development of laughter? Do you think it was even funny? Like, do you think
I mean, I bet
you'd
it was.
laugh at
I
it?
bet it was some human. I guess I'm just thinking back onto what time and because we probably didn't have language when we
Yeah,
first
no, no,
started
no.
laughing.
Of course not. No, hell no.
So I bet it was some sort of physical thing. Like somebody fell, like still to this day, watching another person get hurt, even though you can be like, oh, but if you know they're not like legitimately hurt.
Oh yeah, dude.
A perfect example. To this day, funniest thing ever. Old man getting hit in the nuts by a young kid.
Yeah.
Nothing is
Yeah.
funnier
Yeah, those
than a
are all the
little
winners of
kid
America's Home Videos.
swinging a wiffle bat, hitting
Oh, yeah.
Uncle Ted and the fucking
Slapping the
kid.
nards.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
I would imagine that the first laugh had to do something with that.
Yeah.
Like
pain,
somebody
hurting themselves.
getting hurt but not getting hurt, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Just like, do you think they laughed at themselves, or do you think, and that's what prompted the laughter, or do you think they got laughed at?
I think they got laughed at.
Because that would like imply learned behavior then, because like I think it would just have to come from something. Because if you're laughing at something, then it's just like, how would you know to laugh?
Just because it's a guttural reaction.
It just has to happen. Well, then it has to. Well, then it's not learned.
No.
Or
So what I'm saying is like laughter is our ability to cope with the world.
Yeah.
And so in a scenario where somebody, like, it happens, we see it all the time. When something happens to somebody that you know hurts, but it doesn't actually like hurt them. Does that make sense? Like, not
Yeah, you
sure,
know,
like,
I know. I mean, there's television shows like that are called like fucking Broke or
oh, dude,
something
you
like
seen
that, and they just
Wipeout?
yeah, that's the best,
It's the
dude.
best. Remember MXC?
Donk. I don't remember that one.
Oh, it was on Spike TV, bro. It was like this. They
Just
took
keep
all
it
these.
on all night long.
They took all these this Japanese game show called MXC, like Most Extreme Elimination.
Uh-huh.
MXC, MX, yeah, Most
Oh,
Extreme
I
Elimination
think I've seen
Competition.
something. Yeah, yeah.
But they overdubbed it. Like, I don't know who the comedians were that overdubbed it, but they were so on point, bro.
Really?
Yeah, the overdubbing was the best part of it. It was brilliant. It was on for like 11 seasons. I never missed an
Come
episode.
on. You watched everyone.
Scouts honor, dude.
Scouts on.
And
Uh,
these people would get hurt so bad. Like, I don't know what waivers they're giving contestants in Japan. Might have been Korea. I think it was Japan.
yeah.
Whatever they were signing was, we have no accountability for what's about to happen, because these people got rocked, dog. And
Damn.
every once in a while, you're just like, oh, dude, that person's like gotta be broken. Like, something's
Yeah.
broke on them. But
Yeah.
most of the time, you were like, that's not gonna, it's padded. Like, everything's
Right,
padded.
right.
They're falling in water. They're falling in gelatin. They're getting hit by
Yeah.
rubber balls, whatever. Never have I laughed harder in my life than seeing that happen. And I think what it is laughter traditionally to me means our way of dealing with the pains of life. Like,
Yeah.
the first laugh to me, what makes sense in my mind, obviously I'm talking out of the side of my mouth because I rarely have any idea what I'm talking
No
about.
caveats here, dude. No caveats.
You seeing and knowing in an instant that somebody's not actually hurt and laughing about it.
Yeah, isn't that interesting though? Like just on how like the reception of an instance of like anything that happens, like how we can perceive it as hilarious or traumatic based on the outcome of it with the same exact thing. Like if somebody falls and like severely hurts themselves, it's can be traumatic. If somebody falls the exact same way and just like happens to not hurt themselves and gets back up and like giggles, it's just like that's hilarious. And that's so strange how our brains are wired to kind of, but so I don't know. I mean, some people can't watch I mean, there's certain like skater shows where they're like epic failing and you watch them and like, you know, some of them are kind of funny, but like a lot of them are kind of hard to watch because you're like,
Yeah.
yikes,
They're
dude,
not
like
wearing
that
helmets and
doesn't
shit.
feel good. Yeah. But it is interesting that, you know, you can perceive something the same way just based on the outcome, having a different reaction to it completely. And laugh. And it's interesting that like either like laughter can be one of them, belly laughter, or complete traumatic shock.
Totally. And this literally the same exact thing can happen to two separate people and they can receive it in two completely different ways.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's bonkers.
Yeah.
It kind of goes to show you that you most likely can be bigger than your trauma. Like, some people whose stories are insane.
Yeah.
The homes they were raised in and the obstacles that they had to traverse growing up. And now they look back on it and they are thankful for it. They're like, yeah, it was
Right.
crazy, but it made me who I am. Other people are paralyzed by less, way less. Like, we live in a day and age where people can be paralyzed and claim victimhood for some of the most ridiculous shit ever.
Right.
But ultimately, like, it's their right to perceive the worst thing that's ever happened to them as being the worst thing that's ever happened to them. Like, we're kind of all subjective to our experiences, and that is super interesting and wild to think that literally the same exact thing. Have you ever seen like these game shows where people wear a blindfold and like they have to put their hand in this box and like it's like Jello pudding or something, or it's like and they'll just you know,
Yeah, totally.
and they take the blindfold off and like, oh my God. Like that seems to happen in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like,
it's crazy. I mean, it goes back. It's like I went to this high rise building out here, this big skyscraper that just got built out here in Hudson Yards in Manhattan. and there's this new top deck called the Edge. Um, and I don't know how many floors up it is, of 190,000. I don't know. It's fucking high as shit, dude. It's up on the top. It's like a new attraction in New York. My
Mm-hmm.
friend was in town and he took me. Shout out Michael Silverblatt. And there's this area on top of this like big balcony that you can walk across that they've created. It's all glass, so you can like see below you, like just straight down
yeah,
onto like the
wild.
streets, and you're 400 stories up. And it was so scary, and like my stomach dropped out from under me, dude, every time. And I kept like going over it just to like experience the feeling, because it was so crazy. But I realized, like, as soon as I got to the area where there was no windows, I was like, this is I'm in the exact same area,
Right.
on the exact same platform. I just can't see through it, but I feel totally safe now. And it was just like this crazy thing that my brain was wired to like believe that because I could see through it. And I swear to God, man, I was like, I couldn't even do it. Like it was so scary, man. You should go next time you're in town, dude, because it's like a really interesting experiment to do with yourself, because you're just like, oh my, I know that this is safe. Well, you think you do,
Right.
but you walk across it, it's just like, oh my God. And you're like, I couldn't even talk. I was like,
Right.
it was really, really crazy, man. So
and it's such a trip
man.
how powerful perception is.
Yeah.
We have, you've used it before, but one of my favorite party tricks when we have friends over is, have you ever done VR?
Yeah.
You know, like I ask like anybody, like new friends, anybody coming over is like, dude, you ever done VR?
Yeah.
Most of the time nobody has.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And we have this, it's kind of like a rinky dink VR system.
It's amazing, dude.
It's amazing, but in comparison to like what there is out there,
Sure.
you know, this is 10 years old now almost. No, not 10. Not 10. 5, whatever. There's one game where you're riding a roller coaster and there's zombies like coming at you and you're like shooting the zombies.
Yeah.
Bro, every time people come over,
scared shitless.
Terrified, scared shitless. They're not moving. They're sitting in the middle of my living room and they're convinced. Like grown men screeching.
Right.
I got a boxing game. This is like
Rocky Balboa.
It's not, is it Rocky
Creed.
or it's like Apollo?
Well,
yeah, it's
same
Creed.
thing.
It's Creed. And they're just like fully in it, fully convinced.
Oh my God.
And it's just vision.
I was more exercised from playing that game for 3 minutes than I was going to the gym for an hour.
Sincerely, one round and you're just like, oh my God, like, can you imagine actually being in a boxing match?
Hell no.
They've got nowadays in certain, I think you got to go to an arcade. I think they're super expensive to do, but they have haptic vests. You wear this vest that vibrates in the specific region where you're getting either shot or punched. Oh. And then they have this 360 treadmill that is human powered. So you're powering it, you're walking on it, and you can walk in every direction. It's a circular treadmill. How do we know we're not in a simulation right now?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you think about where technology is currently, how long's the internet been around? 30 years? When did it first come out? Like the 90s?
Yes, probably like early 80s or late 80s or something like that.
So like 30 years since technology has really seen like a proper expanse.
Yeah.
Specifically like computer technology. Think about where the iPhone's been in the last 10 years. It's insane now. Samsung phones, bro, you can like zoom all the way to Saturn and take a picture of your Martian brother, Kyle.
It's dick.
Yeah, his wiener. To think about what Rudy's going to experience in 20. I mean, you know, we're kind of in this stage right now where he's like, he really like he wants to watch Cars all the time.
you have to turn your volume down because you didn't want to say it too loud because you get like, too excited. He really wants to watch Cars.
He does. He wants to watch Cars constantly, dude. And our rule is like you can't watch Cars until like later, like 5. you know?
Mhm.
Like that's the rule that and I watch way too much television. I do.
You do? You
Without
do?
question, bro. I watch
Okay.
something every night. Like that's
Yeah.
my tradition is I'm going to do all my stuff, I'm going to have dinner, and then after dinner, unless I have like a legit project on,
Right.
I'm going to
Watch TV.
relax.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch a show.
You deserve that.
People who change the world don't do that. People who
Well,
like actually accomplish shit don't do that. They're going till midnight and they're working the whole time. So I've resigned myself to like just basically floating along
just
to my
being
monotony.
fine.
Yeah, just being fine.
You're good. You're
Just
good.
like, living in this 1,500 square foot house for the rest of my life. And
Well, it would be very unfortunate if you just stopped watching TV and giving yourself that reward just because you like thought in your brain if you didn't, you were going to be changing the world, and then you just like sat around.
I
and
just wish
substituted that with not doing anything.
Yeah,
and,
I just kind of wish I was
eating
inspired.
caramel koalas.
I just wish I was inspired enough to just like work until midnight. Like, oh yeah, it's gonna be. If I work until midnight, it's gonna be some legitimate reward. Anyways, he's like constantly wanting to watch cars, watch television. Not constantly, but like this morning.
Yeah, of course.
This morning he woke up at 7 a.m. It was like 6 a.m. First thing he says when he gets out and walks in the living room is like, "Dad, I want to watch Cars." It's like, bro, what planet are you living on? We don't watch Cars this early, like this is ridiculous. But bro, his little brain, if we would have had cartoons when we were 2 that looked like Toy Story 4, that's all I would want to do too.
I wanted to watch the cartoons that were cartoons in the 80s. So like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Rugrats. Have you ever gone back and like tried to watch Rugrats?
No, but I've tried to watch
It doesn't hold up.
oh dude, none of it holds up. I'm trying to think about if Rocco's Modern
Arthur
Life
does.
Really Arthur
Ren
does?
Ren and Stimpy do.
No way.
And The
dude.
Simpsons holds up for sure.
Well, The Simpsons is still new.
No,
They're still
not back
making-
then.
Yeah, I know.
Like
The
if you
Simpsons-
go watch early Simpsons episodes, they hold up.
Simpsons still holds up. Because that's Conan O'Brien, dude. He was writing back then, dude, on that show. It's the best.
Conan O'Brien was writing on the Simpsons show?
Yeah, yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
What a
that's where he
legend,
started.
dude. That guy's had such a sick
legend,
career.
dude. He's the best. You got to listen to his podcast, man. It's hilarious. He is such a son of a bitch.
Is he
dude.
unhinged? Is he like, because when he was on
Yeah,
network television,
totally,
I
dude.
kind of felt like he couldn't like be full Conan.
Yeah, he talks about it all the time. He's just like, this is such a better platform for me. And he's not even on television anymore.
No, I know he's off.
Yeah, he just does. I mean, I'm sure he does many things, but
He's just got the fat stacks and he's doing a podcast.
Fat stacks, bro. That's what we're about to do, bro. Fat stacking it, dude, with this. How good's this podcast?
Dude, I'm trying to go to Conan's pool party and bring a couple Otter Pops.
I'm trying to go to Cabo San Lucas and fucking drench my nards in the Sea of Cortez, dude. That shit's gonna be fine.
Oh, dude. Cortez, dude. That's an old Grateful Dead song.
On. We got to go on a trip soon, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm going to Alaska.
Oh, yeah, can I come?
Absolutely.
End of September?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be coming for the whole month of October, so I got to check my budgets.
Let me check them for you.
What budget?
Let me check them for you real quick. They're slim.
We're in trouble, dude. We got to get more. We got to get more viewers, dude. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna do a nice rebrand of this podcast. It'll be great.
We're just gonna keep moving forward, man. We're gonna keep throwing paint at the wall, and hopefully, in due time, people are like, "Yo, that's art."
Yeah, dude. And we're gonna look back on these episodes and be like, "No, we're not. We're not gonna look back on any of this stuff.
Look back on no episodes, dude.
I ain't never looking back, dude. I'm just moving forward. Baby,
unless I said something, unless either one of us said something that becomes so offensive that we have to look back on it and be like, "Oh no."
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Like, you know how new things are just like becoming offensive every day?
Totally. Everything that we say is going to happen like that.
Oh, like in 10 years, we're just like,
Oh,
no.
yeah, dude. Well, think about all the comedians or just people in general who are being canceled right now because of something that they said like 15 years ago.
Oh, that's so stupid.
We're just asking for it by putting ourselves on record, man, publicly.
We don't say anything that faux pas.
No, we should start one where we do though, and just put it on like behind a Patreon wall and have people pay for it.
Just all the worst things we can think of.
Just to say all the offensive things.
Well, let me tell you, if people would actually pay us and join the Patreon, I'd go in full bore.
God, would you guys pay the Patreon already or what? God,
we don't have one. We don't have
damn.
the Patreon set up.
I know.
We're going to rebrand. We're going to start a Patreon. We're going to do an extra episode every 2 weeks for just the Patreon.
Yeah.
And we tell our worst stories, the worst things that have ever happened to us that we would never tell the rest of the world.
And it's uncensored too. Like we're not gonna think about like the public listening to us. We're just gonna get real nasty, dude.
Not nasty, just real particular.
Well, that's nasty, dude.
All right. Well, everybody who's made it this far and is still listening, thank you. We love you. Feels good. I was gone 3 weeks, man. I'm back in the saddle. I'm sweating, dude. I'm up in my attic and I'm sweating.
Yeah, you are back.
I gotta get out of here.
Back in the 360-degree heat of Spokane, Washington, dude.
Yeah.
Must be weird to be back, but it must be good to be back. You got your pups, you got your babe, you got your house.
It feels good, man. It feels good. I'm gonna go make some steaks.
Hell yeah, dude.
I'm gonna go on a run and make some steaks.
You're gonna go on a run?
Yeah.
Nice, dude. Good for you.
I can get my runs in.
Get that shit going, dude.
Yep.
Get that sweat on.
All right. I love everybody. Love you, Jules.
Everybody too. Love you too, man. We'll talk soon, dude.
Boy.
Oh, boo-boo, did you just make it to the end of the video? Yes, you did. Do you want to see more videos just like this one? Do you?
Well, then head over to patreon.com/live at the lodge, where you can support the How Goods of this podcast, as well as the entire Live at the Lodge family.
Yep, yeah, you're going to get exclusive merch, personalized shout-out videos. Me and Jules, we're going to show up at your house and baptize your nephew, huh? Check it out, patreon.com/live at the lodge.